Hi, it's Bernadette from Crush This Debt, and today we are going to meet someone else who had their own debt-free journey and some tips and maybe tricks that they can tell you on how you can start your own, or if you're in the middle of it, how you can keep trucking on. So I have our good friend Molly here today. Say hi.
Hi.
And we actually met through a mutual friend. We're both kind of in the entrepreneurial space. And what I didn't realize, in addition to her being an awesome girl boss, is that she similarly went through her own debt-free journey and had some really great tips, and just her story was really cool. And so I'm on this big kick that if you want to get on this journey, meet other people who are going through the same thing and learn from each other, right?
Oh, totally. It's so helpful.
Yeah. So thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And so let's just start off with when you first started, kind of what was the impetus for your thinking about changing up your finances?
So we had assumed some debt from a family member that we were helping out.
Oh.
And that just put layers on layers. And finally I thought, God, we're just drowning in this. And I really, really wanted it to go away. Mm-hmm. And so we just made the decision one day to just start. Mm-hmm. Just take those baby steps and just do one thing at a time to make it better.
And when you say we, who do you mean?
My husband and I.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you don't mind sharing, how much was the debt?
$100,000.
So 6 figures of debt that wasn't completely expected.
No,
like.
No, it wasn't totally expected. Some was consumer debt. One was a car. Some of it was a car. Some of it was, oh my gosh, what was the other one? The assumed debt from the family member.
Yeah.
And then also a little bit of student loans.
Yep. So a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. Yes.
Wow. And how did you feel about that? Like, how did it make you feel when you realized that you had this amount to tackle?
It was really overwhelming at first because, 6 figures. I mean, what are you going to do with that? So it was a really overwhelming feeling at first. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you started on the journey. Mm-hmm. What are some things that you started to do to change and kind of get on this path?
So the first thing that we did was we set aside that $1,000, that you just need to have in case something happens, in case something goes wrong, there's a bill you can't pay, whatever. We just put that to the side. Mm-hmm. And then we started taking the debt and we just started paying on the smallest amount and just paying it down until it was paid off. Mm-hmm. And we just continue to move through the debt in that way. And just staying really disciplined to how much we set aside to put towards the debt every month.
Mm-hmm. So did you have to make any drastic kind of changes?
That was actually the surprising part. Yeah. We didn't have to make as drastic a change as I thought. We didn't get second jobs. We didn't do any of that. It was really just looking at where does this money go every month and being really vigilant around how are we spending it and what's our priority. And so one of the things we used to joke with our daughter was, she'd get frustrated or think we didn't have money for something. And I'd say, you know what, we could totally drive a Ferrari. Mm-hmm. We would just be naked and hungry. Because
naked, hungry people in Ferraris.
Right. We can afford to do things. We just choose to live life in a different way. Mm-hmm, so when you choose to live a debt-free lifestyle, you just don't do some of the extravagant things. But our day-to-day lifestyle actually didn't change a whole lot.
Yeah. And see, this is what I loved about her story, right? Is because, and when we first talked about this together, some people assume that, okay, with that amount of debt, the biggest feedback I get is, Bernadette, I want to live my life. YOLO, budget sounds lame. I don't want to do any of this stuff. But you're such a great example of someone who is you didn't have to suddenly work 100 hours per week or have to cut out all these things that you really enjoy. You just had to be more thoughtful and, like you said, I love that word, vigilant, right? Yeah. About where that money was going and be wise about it. And I think the other thing that I loved about your story, which is different from mine, is that you had a kid during this whole thing, which is another thing that I usually get pushback from. It's well, Bernadette, you don't have kids, so you don't know what it's like to have to deal with that whole situation and pay off debt, but you were able to.
And totally. And it's so hard as a parent to constantly say no to your child. It is, but they don't need yes all the time. That's definitely a part of it. And then once we were debt-free, the yeses got to be so awesome, and that was a huge thing. And so, and we didn't, we, even during that time that we paid off the debt, which took 31 months, by the way.
Okay. Also, freaking amazing.
Yeah. We were able to remodel a bathroom with cash and go to Disney with cash. So it, you know, it wasn't like, it wasn't this impoverished life for 2.5 years. We just, stepped back and didn't do everything we would normally do.
Yeah. And I think that's also a good point of, you got to do what works for you and your family and what your priorities are and what your goals are. And so that is why I wanted you to come, because it's so aligned with my philosophy, which is, save money, make money, earn your lifestyle, which is, I'm not here to prescribe to you a certain lifestyle to live. Like, if you want to drive the Ferrari and that's the most important thing to you, by all means. If that means you're going to have to be naked, like you said, and you don't really care about being naked, then, kudos to you, right? But I also think what I like about what you said is that it was this kind of finite time frame that you guys were working on that, and you knew what other things you wanted to do, and you didn't have to necessarily give those up. Theoretically, some people would say, okay, well, you could have paid off the debt sooner if you didn't do those things, but at the same time, like, you knew what the timeline was right for you and your family, and that allowed you to have this amazing memory at Disney and do all this fun stuff.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be that way, which I love.
Yeah, we probably could have paid the debt off another 8-10 months earlier. But to have those things happen in our lives were worth it. If people know what their why is, why do they want to be debt free? Why do they want to have a different lifestyle? And they really anchor into that, that's going to drive them into whatever it is, whatever's right for them. If it's a year, if it's 2 years, whatever.
And this ties in so well to Crush a Step, because the R in Crush is redesign your life, which is you design your life however you want it to be, and then you work your finances around that. So I think that's great. So what is, do you have any useful tips that someone else can use in their own debt-free journey?
Yeah, we had 2 really big takeaways. The first one was, in that entire 31 months, I never touched our $1,000 emergency fund. And it's not that unexpected expenses didn't come up, because they did, but I could look at them and go, well, how can I pay that? Where can I steal a little from here, or can I delay that payment a little bit, or whatever it was. I was always able to come up with the money, find the money somehow, and I never touched that $1,000. And so it really got me to thinking, do we really have all that many emergencies? I mean, the things that we say are emergencies, are they really? And, a friend of mine during that time, he had an emergency. They needed new tires. I was like, that's not an emergency. That's a normal maintenance on your car.
Yeah, like that's going to happen at some point.
Right. So we really started budgeting for all of the things that happen. And we save for them monthly, and we save for them all year. So Christmas is not a shock. We save for it all year.
Yeah, Christmas is the same time every year, guys.
Every year.
Just like clockwork.
Yeah. And like new tires, we save for them every month. We save for the charity that we want to give to. We save for vacation. We just put a little bit away every month for the things that matter. And then when they come due, the money's there, and it's never a big deal. So after we got debt free, we did bulk up our emergency fund, and it was several, it clipped 10,000 or more, I think is what we had in it. And then we did have an emergency. Our AC died in our 20-year-old house. We didn't see it coming necessarily. We should have. And again, that shouldn't have been an emergency because the house was 20 years old.
Yeah.
But and it died, and it was $6,000. And I remember calling my mom, and she was like, oh my God, are you just beside yourself? Are you so upset? And I thought, no, because I just wrote a check.
Isn't that crazy?
For $6,000, and I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to miss any sleep over where are we going to get that money and how are we going to pay for it. And then as soon as that was paid, we went right back to putting that money back and being vigilant about putting it back. But it was a good feeling. It was a really good feeling.
Yeah. Just a couple weeks ago, we had a bathroom blow up. AJ got into like a car accident where someone ran into him. Fortunately, no one was hurt or anything. And then our faucet went out, like all in the same week. And if you'd asked me 3 years ago, I would have been like beside myself. I would have like lost my mind. But same thing, I was like, you know what, just got to write a check and it'll be done. It'll be taken care of, and it's not going to break us. Right. So I think that's amazing. Yeah. Do you have any tips for people with kids specifically going on a debt-free journey?
So same kind of thing for her is I looked at what were the things that she wanted to be involved in? What were the extracurricular activities? Obviously, kids grow out of clothes like constantly. So being sure to have a clothing budget so that every few months I could get her a new couple of pieces of clothing or whatever. And we made sure to shop sales, and we made sure to, you know, I would tell her, you know, you can do these 2 activities, but not these 4. And just sort of restricting her to what was reasonable instead of what was indulgent. And it made her get creative, because she would find different ways to have fun that wasn't about spending money. And so it kind of was like having like a 1950s kid where they had to like have an imagination.
Yeah, she's like, like going back to playing like with sticks and
exactly.
Yeah, no, I think that's great.
But it really wasn't that bad. It was just thinking, again, it was that thinking through of what will she need? What do we need to provide for her? And how do we do that? You know?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So last question for you. When you paid off the $100,000, how did it feel and what did you do? What did you do to celebrate?
Oh gosh, it felt so good. It was so amazing. So at that point we were debt free except for our mortgage.
Yeah.
And we went on a very small vacation, and I had basically decided ahead of time, like, what was the cost going to be of the hotel and the food, et cetera, et cetera. And we spent exactly what we thought we were going to spend, and we came home with nothing on our credit card or nothing owed, and it was just the first time ever that there had been that complete satisfaction of, I just paid for something and it's done. It didn't follow me. So that was kind of how we, you know, and then really, honestly, the first big like gift to ourselves was to just put a whole chunk of money in savings.
Yeah.
Because we had never been able to do that. It had all been going to somebody else. So really, it honestly felt like a huge reward to take all of that debt payment and make it a savings payment and just see it sit there, and it was just mine.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
This is, okay, so obviously I love this story. If you love this story too, you can learn more about Molly. We're going to put some information about her on our social media and our website. And if people want to reach out to you, how can they find you?
They can reach me through my website, which is wellness-journey.com. And they can message me if they have any questions or want to know more about my story.
Yeah, about her story, about her business. And if you just want to meet some cool people like Molly, feel free. And if you want to learn more about Crush This Debt, you can visit us at crushthisdebt.com and find the links below. Thanks so much for joining us. See you next time.